1984, it happened. And 7 weeks ago, I had the most startling phone call that I've ever had in my life. On the other end of the line was a gentleman whom I knew well at Prudhoe Bay. He'd been in my services. I knew him as one of the top. He knows everything that's going on. If anything's going to happen in the world, he knows it. Now, folks, let me pause here long enough, Alex, please, to say to your listening audience, folks, you believe everything you hear from Alex Jones. I have the greatest of admiration for him. I wish I had more opportunity to be on his show, but I guess it takes something like this for him to invite me. But anyway, I want you to believe everything he says. He's telling you the truth. He gives it to you like it is. And he talks about these people. They do exist. There positively is a group of people on the face of the earth who control the world, and Alex has tried his best to tell it to you. And I'm going to prove it to you today, because this is not a conspiracy. This is an agenda, and they know exactly what they're doing. So here's what happened to me. This gentleman called me on the phone, and he said, Lindsey, you've gone too far. You're going to have to stop. He said, you can do this, 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 and this, but he said, you can't do this, 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 and this anymore. And he said, if you do, then we are going to do this, this, and this, and this. And what he said was not very pleasant for either my family or me, and you don't argue with these people. When these people say they're going to do something, if they have the power to tell the president what to do, dictate to Congress what bills to pass, tell the Arabs what they're going to give them for a barrel of oil in a given day, control the currencies of the world, and take the life of John F. Kennedy because he was about to destroy the Federal Reserve, they wouldn't have any problems at all with Lindsey Williams or Alex Jones. So I didn't argue with him. I immediately said, what do you want me to do? And he told me. He said, you can do this and this, but he said, you can't do this and this anymore. And if Alex asked me certain questions on the show today, I'm going to not be able to answer you about certain subjects, because if I did, I would be in jeopardy. Well, as a result, within 24 hours' time, I closed down my website. You don't believe me? You know how much your website's worth to a person. Well, go to my website and see. You'll see nothing but a front page, lwoil.com. I called my 800 service, and I said, under no circumstances do you ever sell another Energy Non-Crisis DVD. You pull it from the market, and I don't care how much people want to offer you. You positively do not sell it to them under any circumstances.
But what are the oil companies, Lindsey, whoa, I mean, how do they think they're going to stop it being all over the web? It's number one on Google routinely.
Well, I told the gentleman this. I said, there are thousands of that DVD out there. It's everywhere imaginable. He says, from this point on, he said, there are certain things you do not say. He said, we know that you can't do anything about the things that have already been done. But he said, from this point on, you just positively do not do certain things.
Now, let me guess, you said things that aren't very nice. Did he threaten to kill your wife and grandchildren?
I don't have any grandchildren. And as far as that question, I can't answer you, but I will put it this way. What he said was the kind of things that you and I positively don't want to happen. So as a result, the few things that he said you can't do anymore were not worth the things that I can do not being able to be said. So as a result, after we'd gotten through with our agreement, and he said, now, if you're willing to do these things, he said, we'll let you alone. I decided I'd be friendly with him, and this is where your listening audience comes in, Alex, because I'm going to tell you everything that's going to happen for the next 12 months. I'm going to prove one of them to you, and I am so glad that you're having Dr. Stan Monteith on just after I'm on, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. You have a perfect lineup of people on your program today, because Dr. Stan was the very first person I went to after this happened.
No, I knew that.
I called him on... Yes.
No, I mean, go ahead.
I called Dr. Stan on the phone just after this gentleman had called me, and I said, Dr. Stan, this is what happened to me. I have the greatest respect of Dr. Stan, of probably any man on the face of the earth today in his particular position, both because of his age, his wisdom, and his spiritual atmosphere that he creates. And I said, Dr. Stan, here's what's happened. He said, Lindsey, your wife, your family, you come first. He said, forget about everything else. And he said, why don't you call this man back? He gave me his phone number. He said, why don't you call him back and ask him what you can say? Well, here's what happened. after he got through with our agreement, he said, I said to him, I said, how's your family been? I decided I'd be polite if I could. And where have you been for the past 20 years since I last saw you at Prudhoe Bay? He became very polite, very kind. And so I decided to ask him some questions. And I said, the price of crude oil, the price of gasoline at the gas pump, it's really hurting the American economy. I said, would you mind telling me where it's going? He said, yes, it'll probably go a little higher. Now, he would not say how much. Now, folks, write these down. You can take this to the bank. And I'm going to show you one that you can already take to the bank as of Thursday of last week. But anyway, remember, this was 7 weeks ago, and I gathered from what he said that it would probably go up another $1 before the summer is over. And then he said something so startling, Alec, that I am still sitting here shocked by what he said. He said, Chaplain Williams, the price of crude oil is going to $50 a barrel. My mind began running 1,000 miles an hour. $50 a barrel, first thing that came to my mind was, how are you going to do this? So he knows. There are certain people in the world who know what's going to happen tomorrow. They have already planned it. It's an agenda.
Lindsey Williams, stay there. I'm gonna skip. Lindsey, we got a break, but we're gonna skip the break. I just want you to know that, everybody, for Infowars.com stream listeners, you'll be able to hear what goes on behind the scenes for the next 3 minutes. I don't want to waste any time. If everybody else will be right back. And Lindsey, I'm going to briefly have Bob Chapman, because he couldn't come on later, pop in because he wants to talk to you for just a few minutes when we get back. Then we'll complete your story. Stay with us. Okay, we're still on air. I just skipped that break, but I'm asking the folks in Minnesota, do we have Bob Chapman?
Yes, Bob is here.
Okay, let him know. I'm going to come to him in 3 minutes when we come back to the full transmission. But I want to digress back first, Lindsey. We got plenty of time going into the next hour. And if we need to, when Stan Monteith's on the last 30 minutes, we can hold you over with him if you've got the time. But right now, getting back to these threats, I guess you can't tell us. Was it one of the oil company executives you knew up there? Was it one of the government people that came out to Prudhoe Bay when you guys now admittedly discovered more oil than Saudi Arabia? You say you know this guy. Is this one of the people you worked with for 3 years?
Yes, I know him well. I've had many, many hours spent with him. I cannot give his name. If I did, I would be in jeopardy to no end. I will put it this way. There are certain people who know everything that has been decided, everything that goes on behind closed doors.
Insiders. Yeah, and super insiders. But in the past, you've told us one of them was an Atlantic Richfield guy, but you can't say if that's who it is.
I positively cannot. If I did, I'd be in jeopardy.
No, that's how this high-level mafia stuff works. They give you a lot of times a chance, and they say, just shut up. But you're still here on air. They said you can still go on and talk about some things, or does he want you to come out and say oil's going to be $50 a barrel?
Well, for 5 weeks' time, I disappeared. I didn't do a single radio talk show. I didn't take a single speaking engagement. I'll admit to you, Alex, I was scared. And I remember I called Dr. Stan Monteith on the phone. I said, Dr. Stan, what should I do about this? I said, here I'm sitting knowing everything that's going to take place in the world for the next 12 months. And I have a moral obligation to tell the world, but I said, I don't dare do it for the sake of myself and my family. He said, Lindsey, you have the phone number of this gentleman. Why don't you call him back and ask him about what he said? I said, okay.
Well, we're going to get into that with a full audience in a moment, but I want to understand here, was he saying they were telling him this and he was a messenger, or was he threatening you?
I'm not quite sure. You see, this comes as a we this, we that, this is the way it's going to be, you do this, you do that. They don't ever tell who they're going to. You know the mob well enough to know. You know the people in the elite well enough to know that...
no, that's exactly... Listen, we were going to make a big film production in Hollywood. I'm not going to get into it. And the producer, within days, people found out what he was doing, not even through channels. I mean, and then he got a call saying, somebody will kill your kids, from a general in the Air Force that he knew through his family. And, boy, he backed off real quick, but... Oh, it's insane. Lindsey, we're going back to the full audience. Listen, I don't mean to bifurcate the interview, but I want to bring Bob in for some comments about what you're saying. Then we'll let him go quickly and then get into your full story, okay? Here we go.
Yes.